Hello and welcome to Wavescan, the international DX program from Adventist World Radio. This is our last program for 2014. A Happy New Year to you. This program was researched and written in Indianapolis by Dr. Adrian Peterson and produced in the studios of WRMI Shortwave. I'm Jeff White. Today on Wavescan, Focus on Asia, our last Focus on Asia report, the Philippine radio story, Part 8, Press Wireless returns to the air. We'll have our Australian DX report from Bob Padula, and our special QSL of the week is the emergency transmitter in the Andaman Islands. Well, and from Malaysia we go to the Philippines now. As the opening feature in our program today, we make a return visit to the Philippines. This is the final feature in our year-long series under the title Focus on Asia. Next year, we're planning to present a year-long series of topics under the new title Focus on the South Pacific. Even so, from time to time, we still present interesting topics regarding the fascinating historic backgrounds of other radio stations, large and small, in other parts of the world. On this occasion, we pick up our Philippines story towards the end of the Pacific War, at the time when American forces made a return visit to the Philippines. That was towards the end of the climactic year 1944. But first, though, let's go back to the year 1929, and that was when the American news and radio organization Press Wireless Incorporated, PWI, was formed. At that time, a powerful group of news organizations in the United States formed PWI in an endeavor to improve the flow of news information into and out of the United States. At the time, radio was quite young, and the concept of international broadcasting on shortwave was just beginning. Thus it was that PWI began to establish their own network of communication stations around the world. In some countries, they installed their own shortwave communication stations, and in others, they utilized the facilities of already established stations. PWI also began to manufacture their own transmitters and associated electronic equipment. The first communication station established by PWI was licensed under the call sign WJK, and it was established at Needham in suburban Boston in 1930. This station at this era operated as a long-wave station, and it communicated with a long-wave station in Halifax, Nova Scotia, that was receiving a news flow from a long-wave post office station in England. It is probable that the London end of this NewsLink wireless network was at Rugby, with either of the two long-wave transmitters GBT or GBY. It is known that the Halifax station was operated by the American Publishers Committee, and it was installed at the British cable station at St. Margaret's Bay. An earlier temporary station had been located at Dartmouth, across the bay from Halifax. Station WJK, with its receiving and transmitting facilities, circumvented the expensive landline costs from Nova Scotia into the United States, and it also overcame the usual delay in transmission over the landline system. In addition, there were occasions when longwave WJK was able to communicate directly with London, thus making the relay of news messages via Halifax unnecessary. Then in 1932, PWI began construction of their massive shortwave station located near Hicksville on Long Island, together with their nearby receiver station at Long Neck. At the height of its activity, PWI Hicksville was operating a total of 28 shortwave transmitters, ranging in power from 0.5 kilowatt up to 100 kilowatts, together with a bevy of antenna systems beamed on Europe and Latin America. It would appear that the lone station WJK at Needham in Massachusetts was a temporary unit that closed when Hicksville became full operational. Hicksville itself was closed in 1957 when another more modern station at Centereach was inaugurated. The first PWI wireless factory was opened in the late 1930s at West Newton in Massachusetts. Then, in 1941, a new and additional factory was opened at Hicksville in association with their shortwave communication station. During the war years, their famous 40-kilowatt PWI shortwave transmitter was manufactured in quantity, and these units were installed at many different locations in many different countries around the world. Press Wireless entered the Philippines in 1933. They opened an office in downtown Manila, and they installed a shortwave station on the edge of Manila. 2 years later, PWI Manila was amalgamated with two other international news agencies, and the combined organization was registered as Globe Mackay Cable and Radio, with offices and a studio building in Manila. The entire facility was shut down in late December 1941 as Japanese forces began closing in on Manila. American forces deliberately destroyed all of these press radio facilities in Manila on December 26th, 29th, and 30th. 3 years later, Press Wireless returned to the Philippines with a contingent of personnel and equipment at the time of the MacArthur return invasion. 2 PWI units had been formed at Hollandia on the top edge of New Guinea, and they were shipped into the Philippines as part of the massive invasion fleet. The PZ Party installed a radio communication facility at what was described at the time as a secret location, though subsequently it is known that it was located at Tacloban on the island of Leyte. The studio for PWI station PZ was installed in a warehouse just opposite the MacArthur headquarters, and the transmitters were installed in a nearby sandbagged bunker together with MacArthur's military transmitters. The PWI shortwave transmitters were voice-capable, though usually they were on the air with high-speed Morse code transmissions via a Bohm speed sender. Call signs in use at PWI Tacloban ran from PZ1 up to PZ9, according to frequency. The inaugural news transmission from PWI PZ took place on November 14th, 1944, and it was received by the new PWI shortwave station on the edge of Los Angeles in California. Station PZ also acted as an intermediate relay for the transfer of news reports in Morse code from the auxiliary ship FP-47 for reception in Los Angeles. The PWI shortwave station at Tacloban was not a mobile station installed in a group of Army trucks, though it could be removed and reinstalled at another location quite speedily. On February 28th of the following year, 1945, PWI PZ in Tacloban was closed and transferred to Manila, and that's where we pick up the story on the next occasion.
You're listening to Wavescan from Adventist World Radio. Send your comments and reception reports to Wavescan, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46229 in the United States. That's Wavescan, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46229 in the USA. Or you can email us at wavescan@awr.org. Our email once again, wavescan@awr.org.
Thank you, Alan Graham. Well, as we predicted last week on Wavescan, Radio Exterior de España has indeed returned to shortwave. The official re-inauguration was on December 18th, but shortwave listeners started hearing them on the air a few days earlier. Antonio Buitrago explained the situation on the December 21st edition of his program Amigos de Radio Exterior.
Un programa para los interesados por la radio, las telecomunicaciones y los entornos digitales.
Saludos y bienvenidos a una nueva edición de su programa. Hacemos hoy este espacio Javier Ollero en la parte técnica y Antonio Buitrago en la selección de contenidos y al micrófono.
The return of Radio Exterior de España to shortwave is due entirely to the desire to reach the Spanish fishing fleet around the world. Programs are only in Spanish, and they include 2 newscasts, a sports program, and the program Españoles en la Mar, or Spaniards at Sea. The schedule is Monday through Friday from 1900 to 2300 UTC, and Saturday and Sunday from 1500 to 2300 UTC. On weekends, there is live sports coverage. 4 frequencies are being used. For Africa and the Atlantic Ocean, they're using 11,685 kilohertz. For South America, 11,940 kilohertz. For North America, 9,620 kilohertz. And for the Middle East and the Indian Ocean, 12,030 kilohertz. Here's the schedule again, as announced on the air.
Radio Exterior de España emite en onda corta para África Occidental y Atlántico Sur en la frecuencia de 11.685 kHz, banda de 25 metros. Para América del Sur en 11.940. Para América del Norte en 9.620 kHz. Y para Oriente Medio y el Índico en 12.030 kHz. Los horarios de emisión de los programas de Radio Exterior de España en tiempo universal coordinado son de 19 a 23 horas de lunes a viernes y de 15 a 23 horas los sábados y domingos.
But don't expect much more from Radio Exterior in the future. Probably no expansion of the service or foreign language programming on shortwave. In an on-air interview, the director of Radio Televisión Española continued to insist that shortwave is an obsolete technology, and he said that the only reason they're using it is to reach Spanish fishermen at sea who have no better technology available to them right now. He said the station's budget will be reduced more than 50% to about 500,000 euros per year. We should note that Radio Exterior continues to produce other programs and programs in foreign languages, which are available only on the Internet. For example, there is a half-hour daily program in English.
Radio Exterior de España.
English Language Service. Today's program includes another chapter of our series, The Many Faces of Spain. Today on another English traveller, George Burrow, author of The Bible in Spain. But first, turtles in the Spanish capital.
The daily English program from Radio Exterior de España, no longer on shortwave, but still available on the Internet. You're listening to Wavescan from Adventist World Radio. Let's go now to Bob Padula and his final DX report for 2014 from Australia.
Beginning our program this time, we have the latest information on solar activity as provided by the Ionospheric Prediction Service in Sydney, New South Wales here in Australia. The IPS reports that solar activity is now regarded as low. The 10.7 centimetre solar radio flux is around 150, that's 150, and the daily equivalent smooth sunspot number is 105, 105. In the immediate future, the solar flux is predicted to increase to 170, that's 170, and the equivalent smooth sunspot number will rise to 124, 124. So as you move through solar cycle 24, we're at the plateau now, and it's understood that the level of sunspot activity will start to fall gradually in the months ahead as we move into cycle 25. So in the meantime, high-frequency signals, high-frequency transmissions over long-distance multi-hop paths on darkness or semi-darkness paths on frequencies above about 15 megahertz will not be very reliable, but frequencies below about 15 megahertz on long distance circuits on daylight paths will be satisfactory. Now some more shortwave station news. The Voice of Africa, known as Sudan Radio or the Sudanese Radio, uses a single frequency of 9505, and programs are intended for East Africa and Central Africa. And some of the schedule is as follows: 0600 to 0630 in the Tigrinya language, same frequency in Swahili, 0700 to 0800, and also 0800 to 0900 in English, same frequency. 1630 to 1730 in French, and 1730 to 1830 in English, and 1830 to 1900 in Hausa. So those frequencies were from the current schedule of the Voice of Africa, Sudan Radio. The information from the Voice of the Andes, HCJB, it's on a new frequency of 11900 in the 25 metre band. This frequency is now scheduled 1530 to 1600 from the Moosbrunn, Austria relay station to Central Asia in Russian on Saturdays, and that replaces 11700. And that's followed at 1600 to 1630, same frequency, same transmitting site, the same target area, with broadcasts in Chechen. So HCJB's international service, 11900 replacing 11700, 1530 to 1630 in Russian and Chechen languages on Saturdays. Now, we have some shortwave monitoring information made from here in Melbourne. Now, the 6 megahertz spectrum continues to be very active, as observed here in the Melbourne post-sunrise window. It's dominated by short path signals from Europe, Middle East, Africa and Asia. This is a summary of observed occupancies in the lower section of the band in the time period 1900 to 1930 over the past week. The band edge station, or the edge band marker station, is the first frequency at the lower frequency end of the band. 5865, Radio Fadi in Persian from the Kuwait relay station. 5895, Radio France International from Issoudun in Russian. And 5905, Korean Broadcasting System from the Kostinbrod relay station, that's near Sofia in German. 5915, Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation, its domestic service. And on the same frequency at the same time is Ibra Radio, the religious broadcasting station using Wolferton relay transmitter in England with programs in Arabic. And 5925, the Voice of the Islamic Republic of Iran in Albanian, through to signing off at 1930. And 5950, the Voice of the Tigray Revolution from Ethiopia in local languages. Next frequency, 5955, the Voice of Vietnam in Moosbrunn in Austria, the relay broadcasting in Vietnamese. And the Voice of Turkey, 2 frequencies carrying Turkish language programs, 5980 and 6120. And 5985, China Radio International from a Beijing transmitting site in Portuguese. And 2 frequencies for Radio Romania International, 5990 in Romanian and 6010 in German. And 6020, China Radio International from relay station in China in Albanian. And 6130, Trans World Radio Manzini, broadcasting in African languages. So 6 megahertz spectrum caught good reception here in Melbourne recently during our post-sunrise window, 1900 to 1930. And that's all we have time for in our episode of the Australian DX Report, which came to you from Melbourne in Victoria, Australia. I'd just like to remind you that we offer full detail QSL cards showing Australian scenes and wildlife for correct reports received for these broadcasts. We also offer an email QSL service for reports sent via the internet or email. Full details about the QSL service are available at the Electronic DXpress homepage, which is simply edxp.org. So until our next program, this is Bob Padula in Melbourne in Victoria, Australia, wishing you all good listening. Thanks for being with us and good DX. See you soon.
Thank you, Bob. As our special QSL of the week, Jose Jacob, VU2JOS in Hyderabad, India, tells us about a special low-power emergency transmission he heard from the All India medium wave station located in the Andaman Islands at Port Blair. He heard this AIR transmission on 1440 kilohertz from his home in Hyderabad on November 12, 1942. In response to his reception report, Jose states that he received a friendly letter from the assistant engineer, who explained that this low-power 1 kilowatt transmitter was on the air only for emergency occasions. This transmitter was located in the studio building in Port Blair, and the regular high-powered medium-wave transmitter with 100 kilowatts on 684 kilohertz is located several miles out of town. The low-power transmitter was also used, when needed, as a studio-to-transmitter link. Jose also states that the low 1440 kilohertz unit is no longer in use and has been removed from service. On an earlier visit to the Andaman Islands for emergency relief communications, Jose states that he saw this unit when it was in regular use for AIR medium-wave programming. Well, and we end this edition of Wavescan where we started with Malaysia Truly Asia from UNA, part of a national tourism campaign, by the way, for Malaysia. Thanks for listening to Wavescan, the international DX program from Adventist World Radio, researched and written in Indianapolis by Dr. Adrian Peterson. Next year on Wavescan, the focus will be on the South Pacific. We invite you to stay tuned to us each week. Next week, we begin the new year with the story of the American radio station on the French island of New Caledonia, the story of Australian shortwave call signs, VLA, and our Japan DX report. We have several QSL cards available for your reception reports. Send your AWR and KSDA reception reports for Wavescan to the AWR address in Indianapolis that we'll give you in a moment, and also to the station your radio is tuned to, KVOH, WWCR, or WRMI, or to the AWR relay stations that carry Wavescan. Remember, too, you can send a reception report to each of the DX reporters when their segment is on the air here in Wavescan from Japan, Bangladesh, the Philippines, Australia, and India. They will verify with a colorful QSL card. Return postage and an address label are always appreciated. Our Wavescan address is Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46229, USA. That's Wavescan, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46229, USA. Our email address is wavescan@awr.org. That's wavescan@awr.org. As this is our last edition of Wavescan for 2014, let me thank some of the people who make this program possible. Of course, we begin with our DX editor, Adrian Peterson in Indianapolis, who prepares our scripts and features every week. Thanks also to Ray Robinson of KVOH for his help with production and presentation, and to AWR Program Director Aniston Matthews. Our regular studio operator is Javier Garcia, and thanks to all of the other people at WRMI in Okeechobee, who in one way or another help us bring this show to you. Terry Elders, Pat Travers, Don Frisch, Harry Robbins, Ron Woody, Denny Williams, Scott Marcy, and Thais White. Thanks to our DX reporters Yukiko Tsuji, Henry Omanhai, Salahuddin Dalar, Bob Padula, and Prithviraj Purkayastha. From all of us here at Wavescan, and anyone else I might have forgotten, Happy New Year, and we'll talk to you soon again in 2015. I'm Jeff White. Happy New Year.
The sun